government will extend
That's the result.
14 more days.
That's
So everyone have to work from home or come to office for some time. Hi.
Hi everyone, it's nice to see you all here. I'm just trying to make sure that everyone's joining the right room. I'm glad to see so many people here already. Yeah, next, Operation Get Ed into here is next, I think. Ghana's here, fab.
Hello, everybody.
Hello, everyone.
From Malaysia?
Yes, I am.
Good morning
so
to you.
My mic clear? Is my voice clear?
Sorry?
Yep.
It's clear? All right, good, cool.
Hi, Hebe. Hi, John.
Hi, Nina.
Can you see me there?
Hi, Nina. Nice to
I'm
see
good,
you.
thanks. Just checking in. Ready to go?
Good.
Fab. Just me having a pre-webinar panic as usual.
At least I'm not the cause of it this time.
Yeah, it's Ed this time, but it's not his fault.
This is our second, right? So.
I don't want to do the whole sending links thing. I'm just going to send a message. I wonder, could somebody please check at IECC, could somebody please check whether Ed's in the waiting room? Or I might send him a new link if not. But we shall see.
Wait a minute, am I
think he's waiting somewhere. I'm just not sure if he's in the right, but I don't want to get into the whole sending links thing because we might get confused as to where we are. Right.
I initially thought I was in a waiting room and I just had to double click to actually get into the room, like below the logo.
Ah, okay. That's really interesting. Sorry about my typing away. Zoom meeting's still not opening.
Hello, Reslima. How are you?
Hi, Pak John. I'm good. Thank you. How are you?
Just going to call Ed on WhatsApp.
Hi, Jana. Hi, Ghana. How are you?
Hello. Yeah. Good morning.
Good morning to you too. Yeah. Is it morning at your place?
Oh yes. This is just 1 hour and 15 minutes.
1 hour different. Okay.
Yeah.
That's good. Convenient. It's only Hebe and Ed that have a challenge in the time zone. What time is it in your place, Nina? You are muted.
Sorry. Yeah, no, it's fine for me. It's 2:30 or almost 3 in the afternoon for me, so it's just fine.
Ah, so you got your lunch already.
That's right. Yeah. And we're just sort of the beginning of the day for you. Is that right?
Yeah. This is 10 minutes to 10.
Mm-hmm.
So
now. Just to clarify, when we're presenting, we just share screen.
We have
Okay. Hi everyone.
I just want to let you know, I started from page 10 of the program where it says the virtual room 5.
Oh, okay. I'll send you a different link, Ed. I think you might be able to get in quicker via a different link.
Nggak ada cut off-nya. Nggak ada. Nggak. Hello, Hyan. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Fine, fine. Yes, we can hear you.
Good, 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 good.
What happened with Ed, Hebe? Halo pagi Gus.
Halo, selamat pagi Pak John.
Oke, semua sehat. Riri,
Iya Pak.
ini semuanya yang peserta masih di ini ya, di waiting room ya.
Iya betul Pak.
Ada berapa yang di sana?
Great. Hi everyone. Can I just confirm, Verena, I don't know how to pronounce your name, sorry, is it Verena? So you had to double click to get into the room?
Yeah, so I pressed the Zoom link like I normally would, but then a white thing came up with just the logo, and I kind of just randomly clicked quite a bit underneath the logo, and then this opened. So I don't know if that's another step.
Okay. I'm just thinking, somebody at IECC, is there still a waiting room on? Is Ed Fine in the waiting room at all?
Ya, tolong ini ya, Riri, yang namanya Edward Fine atau Ed Fine, coba tolong lihat di waiting room atau tidak. Riri?
Iya Pak, tapi kita masih mantau terus. Coba, kayaknya bukan speaker deh Pak.
Oh, yang Ed Fine namanya Edward Fine.
Edward Fine, sebentar ya Pak.
Oh, you're here.
Yeah.
Yay. Phew. Right.
So he is in?
Yeah, Ed's in. Yeah.
Good.
Oh, I can breathe again. All right.
Unmute. I'm unmuted. Start my
Good
video.
afternoon. Yeah, I mean, good evening to you.
Good
Ed.
evening, good morning, good afternoon.
So you're pretty neat today.
There we go. Okay.
Brilliant.
So I'm just curious, Hebe, what happened to me?
I think you might have just got stuck in a waiting room cycle, maybe. I think, okay. I'm not sure whether you joined. I think you joined with the general link rather than the speaker link first. Yes. So you joined with everyone else waiting to join the webinar app.
Okay. Are there other people in the waiting room?
Yes, certainly is. So there are a lot of people in the waiting room. So we are going to open the waiting room. We place it in this room. In 5 minutes.
Okay, we just need to check the speakers that have arrived. So we've got New Zealand, we've got Australia, we've got Thailand, we've got Laos, we've got Malaysia, Indonesia, Nepal, is Ghana here? Yeah. So we're waiting. We need Ripu, who isn't yet here. we've got Sri Lanka. Thanks for everyone for joining so early, by the way. It's great to see. Yeah, it's great to see everyone here. Got China. I think we're waiting for the Japanese representatives. They're not yet here. Let's see. Just looking. We're still waiting.
We have Bhutan here.
Okay, there's a few people that still need to join. So
we have Laos, we have Malaysia, we have Nepal, New Zealand, the Philippines. We haven't seen yet.
Romeo,
yes. Singapore, right. We have also seen. Punrat is here.
We've just had announced who's representing Vietnam join as well, so that's great. Cool. Just gonna. Great. Well, I'll Ed, I don't know if we've mentioned this, but I'm going to kick off, do some housekeeping announcements, and then I'm going to pass over to John quickly as the IECCE host, just to welcome everyone. And then John's going to pass back to me, and I'm going to introduce you, Ed. So that will be the first 5 minutes, but I'll outline the whole proceedings when we do that as well.
And how about for sharing screen? You're in charge of that?
Yep, so everyone is able to share their screens now. I gave it a bit of a test earlier, so I'm hoping that everyone will be able to do that. I've got a few, if anyone wants to send me their backup of their PowerPoint, if they'd rather I share it, then yeah, it's great. Yeah, everyone should be able to share. So,
and then okay, I'm sharing. Do you see my screen?
See your desktop, yeah.
Yeah, that's all. Okay, well, hold on. And this should work.
Yeah, brilliant.
Right, good. Okay, and then I will stop sharing. And good.
Okay, I'll do a bit of right. We're at 4 o'clock now here, 10 a.m. So I guess we can probably start.
We can. Yeah, let me inform the committee.
Okay. Just wondering if somebody could message Ripu in the background, or any of our speakers that haven't joined yet, and just send that link. Perhaps Ed, if you could forward them that link.
Okay. Besides Ripu.
Mm-hmm.
Shall I contact Ripu?
No, I can do it. Who else?
So Ripu, I think, is it Chitra? I haven't seen.
Oh, Chitra, right.
Yeah, I haven't seen her yet. Let me just check my list. We're also waiting for the Japanese.
Okay, Nakagami.
Yeah. And then Romeo from the Philippines, I believe, as well. Hi, Stefan.
Yes, we can start.
Brilliant. Great. So I think we'll start recording, and then we'll let other people in as we go along. Fab. Okay. So hello, everybody. My name is Hebe Hetherington, and I'm the current coordinator, Energy Evaluation Asia Pacific. Just on behalf of EEAP, I'd like to welcome everyone to the webinar today, where we're going to talk about the evaluation of energy policies and programs, why to do it, what its value is, and as part of that, we're going to have reflections about the current status of energy evaluation in 16 countries in Asia Pacific. So just to quickly outline the proceedings today for everyone, we will have a 20-minute keynote presentation from Ed Fine about strengthening the value of evaluation. And then we're going to have a lightning session. So it's going to be about 80 minutes, where each speaker speaks for about 5 minutes about viewpoints on energy evaluation in countries across Asia Pacific. Then we're going to have a quick 10 to 15 minute session where John's going to announce energy evaluation in Indonesia. And then we're going to have about 5 minutes at the end just for Q&A and wrapping up. So a few housekeeping announcements before we begin. Just please make sure you're on mute so we can reduce the background noise as much as possible. Questions are welcome in the Q&A box. Please just be concise and precise and give as much context as you can so we can address them. We're going to be monitoring that box throughout the presentation as well. Just to anticipate a commonly asked question, we will be making a recording of the session today, which will be available on our Energy Evaluation YouTube channel. If you haven't already as well, you can sign up to our mailing list, LinkedIn, Twitter. I'm going to put all the links.
Which is the second being held this year, if I'm not mistaken. And this time being part of a great international event. This is the third Indonesia Energy Efficiency and Conservation and Exhibition. All is presented in a virtual form. Ladies and gentlemen, though we all are still being plagued by the dreadful corona pandemic, which is being massive and dangerous as we speak, thank God we still hold this webinar online and in a rather big fashion. On this occasion, let me express my sympathy and prayer for those who are suffering from the pandemic, particularly to our friends in India who are still struggling to overcome the impact of the pandemic. May they are blessed with strength and wisdom in their struggle to overcome the pandemic. This webinar is being attended by a representative of 12 countries, maybe more, in the region, where each will share insight over the current stage of evaluation programs and practices in their respective country. This morning, I checked the number of registered participants from across the region. Happy to know that there are more than 300 attendants will participate in this webinar. Maybe some of them, particularly from my own country, they come here to learn about what really is the evaluation we are talking about here. We know that the word evaluation are frequently spoken in conversation, in speech by official or academics, but the evaluation we are talking about here, I'm afraid not so many people know exactly. Therefore, we are happy to have our dear Dr. Edward Fines today, who will enlighten us about the evaluation as a body of knowledge and professional practices. I am particularly happy that some young fellows in Indonesia have shown their strong interest in eventually establishing the energy evaluation community in Indonesia. The background and plan of this project will be presented later in this agenda today. Ladies and gentlemen, I wish you all to have fruitful learning and discussion about this issue in the coming 2 hours. And I hope the participant will be inspired to start something toward having evaluation being understood and practiced in our country. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John. Thanks for that introduction. So without further ado, it's my pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker today, Ed Vine. Ed is an affiliate at the Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory, LBNL, where he was involved in the evaluation of energy efficiency programs and technology performance measurement for over 36 years. He has been working with colleagues around the world in developing a community of evaluators of energy programs in Asia Pacific. And as part of this effort, he has been involved in organizing workshops in Asia, as well as organizing our first conference in Bangkok in November 2017. Ed is also part of the Energy Evaluation Asia Core Group and Planning Committee. So welcome to the stage, Ed.
Thank you. I'll start sharing my screen. And I will get this up and go. All good?
Yeah, all good.
Great. Okay, well, thank you very much. It's an honor to be the keynote speaker for this webinar and conference, and I appreciate all the people behind the scenes who helped put this together. It's an exciting time, as you'll see, not just for people listening to me, but you're going to hear from, for the first time ever, where evaluation is in 16 countries in the Asia Pacific region. But before we get there, I want to talk about a topic I'm very interested in, which is called strengthening the value of evaluation. And let's see, there, two topics. First, for those not familiar with evaluation, I give a very brief intro, and then I focus then on how do we strengthen the value of evaluation. So there's a lot of talk now about different programs for promoting both energy efficiency and renewable energy. And financing of programs is one critical aspect. And there's a recent report that came out looking at financing, and they indicated the central role of evaluation for the financial world, which you can see as an example for other worlds people work in. And here, the financiers should enhance monitoring and evaluation strategies to demonstrate the value of clean energy development. So what do we mean by evaluation? Evaluation is an objective process of understanding how a policy or program was implemented, what effects it had, for whom, and why. And most importantly, it leads to more effective policies and programs. So in the years ahead, you're going to hear about all sorts of different programs, but the question you should have is how effective are these and can they be improved? So we need evaluation to provide information to make good decisions regarding investments, to assess impacts, not only energy usage, but other targets, and we'll explain that shortly. And as I mentioned, to improve program and policy design, identifying the key policies, prioritizing budgets, and very importantly, to inform resource planners and policymakers. And there are many stakeholders involved that evaluators need to be aware of and need to interact with. Some, of course, are the program implementers. They may be utilities or third parties, and their administrators. Of course, funders want to know the results of their program, how it can be improved. Regulators in some cases, planners and forecasters, in some cases elected and appointed officials, particularly for those legislatures that have enacted energy laws, and they want to see, well, what has happened since the law was passed. And then special interest groups, like environmental groups, as one example. One question that was posed to me is, what about hiring evaluators? How do we get evaluators? And how do the program people do it? Sometimes they're done in-house, what we call internal evaluation. So if you have an organization implementing a program, you might have evaluators on your staff. They're hopefully separate from program staff. We did that initially in the early years in California and the United States, but over time there were questions about independence, objectivity, and credibility. So we went to a different scenario where evaluators were external to the program, independent. So they were hired. They could be consultants, national laboratories, universities. If the project was small, sometimes it was a sole source, but in general, there was a request for qualifications or a request for proposals, and there was variations on that. And the evaluators were managed by utility or government staff. And in very few cases, an evaluator was hired to cover all the state programs and evaluations that was going on, mainly as a reviewer. But that was, as I said, very few. So there are three types of evaluation that we focus on. One is called impact evaluation or summative evaluation. It looks at the changes due to a program or policies. Often it's been energy use, but we look at greenhouse gas emissions, market share, and other benefits. And we look at both the gross and net outcomes, in this case, energy savings. We want to make sure we don't account for free riders, and we do want to account for spillover. I won't go into those definitions for this talk, but those are two very important aspects. In addition to impact evaluation, we often focus on process evaluation or formative evaluation. We're not only interested in the impacts of a program, but how was the program implemented and operating. So it identifies procedures and logic models, assesses reasons for success or failure, were there barriers to participation, were the program operations encountered some difficulties. We wanted to know what was working well or not well, so that we can provide recommendations. Then the third type of evaluation has focus on market transformation programs, but it can be applied to any program that seeks to really influence the market. And I give some examples of market transformation programs here: education, information, training. And then we want to characterize the market to see how that market changes over time. And of course, we want to know, after the changes have occurred, are they sustainable? Do we really have a transformed market? Very importantly is, after all the evaluations are done, we want to make sure the results are useful and used by the stakeholders I mentioned earlier. We don't want to have an evaluation study done and then it's just filed away. Here are 3 websites that people later can look at. California has been a leader in evaluation of programs and policies. There's over 1,000 at this site alone. We've had evaluation conferences both in the US and in Europe, and here are the websites for those conferences. Now I want to focus the second topic on strengthening the value of evaluation. This is based on a blog I wrote recently, and the link is here, so later you can see in more depth. But I'm going to highlight what I wrote. So there are 3 types of improvements that evaluators can do. One type is institutional, the second is methodological, and the third is capacity building. In general, for the institutional, we really want to increase the visibility and legitimacy of evaluation so that the results are avidly sought, as well as hard to ignore by implementers, administrators, and policymakers. We want to make sure the results of the evaluation studies have a practical, useful effect on the programs and policies that are studied, not only for the stakeholders I mentioned, but including the implementers, those organizations, because that may affect what they do, and on the big picture. So, there's lots of effort going on for climate change. So how does an evaluation of an energy program fit into reducing greenhouse gas emissions, for example? Now, some specific actions that we can take. First, we want to ensure evaluators are sitting at the table with implementers, including those involved in marketing and outreach, when they are planning program budgets, policy interventions, and design and implementation of programs. At the same time, we would love to have program implementers sitting at the table with evaluators when the evaluators are planning the study design, the logic of the program, performance metrics, and impact on organizational mission and operations. So you can see it's a two-way street here. Other specific actions: ensure findings are timely, useful, and used. Traditionally, evaluations occur maybe 1 or 2 years after a program's been implemented. That's often needed because the data isn't available, but you can try to build in evaluation early so that would be more relevant and helpful for regulators, designers, and administrators, and even customers. And similarly, we want to encourage rapid evaluation. So budgets are put in for, say, process evaluation that may occur right during at the beginning and shortly thereafter when a program is being implemented, so we can get quick feedback to see if the program is headed in the right direction. Very importantly, we want to make sure the evaluation teams to be more multidisciplinary, diverse, and inclusive, including women and minorities. And I'll explain later why. We want to ensure also that the process and impact evaluations are integrated. I mentioned earlier the 3 types. But process and impact, they can be conducted separately by separate evaluators, but it would be nice if they're integrated and conducted at the same time. And then if, again, evaluation, we want to make sure it's an essential and positive tool for implementers. Implementers should be very strong supporters of evaluation. They shouldn't feel like, oh, I'm being evaluated for my performance just to see whether I'm doing a good job or not. They should see evaluation as helpful for them to discover market opportunities, for planning different scenarios for their markets, as well as for program design and implementation and ongoing improvement. Now, the second topic is methodological. we want to expand the evaluation scope and or modify cost effectiveness tests to address all impacts. Traditionally, the cost effectiveness test looks at just energy savings and the cost, and we want to make sure they're cost effective. But there's much more interest in looking at greenhouse gas emissions, and including California, they're seriously considering changing the cost effectiveness test to include greenhouse gas emissions. We also want to look at the scope to see how does this relate to the Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs, to resilience, sustainability, energy sufficiency, program and policy impacts on underserved and disadvantaged communities. This is particularly in the last year and a half that it's really come to the fore in terms of the pandemic to see who has suffered the worst, basically. And you can see it by different, for example, income groups, as well as ethnicity. So evaluators need to take this into account more than they have in the past. We need to look at market transformation and market changes, because that really is the big picture. We want to have an energy efficient market or a clean energy market with renewable energy. Demand savings has become more important as a system resource for grid integration. So we need evaluation to look at time and location of savings. Also, there are new technologies out, what we call smart technologies, like smart appliances, home hubs, smart commercial buildings. We need to determine how evaluation can collect and use the data in a way that is acceptable to stakeholders. And then we need to make the best use of the M&V from these smart technologies. But evaluators need to remember M&V is not the same as EM&V, evaluation. And I hope I've sort of made you understand from the earlier slides why that is so. Now, the third topic is capacity building. This is what I've been focusing on the last 6 years. And there's a very important role for strengthening the value of evaluation via capacity building through the member countries in the Asia Pacific, utilities, implementers, administrators, academia, and other private sector actors. Now, I'm not going to go into too much detail for this slide, but this is sort of the model that we've been using. So on the left side, you'll see it's called evaluation knowledge, skills, and attitudes. We need to develop more resources to increase the knowledge base. And that can be, the strategies can be through internship, coaching, technical assistance, training, and so on. And then once those skills have been built up, then we need to transfer the learning. And that's on the right side, the right circle, where we need to make it more sustainable. We do that developing a strategic plan for evaluation, developing evaluation policies and procedures, evaluation frameworks and processes, and making sure we can share all the results and findings. But even that is not sufficient. What we need in the middle is leadership in each of your countries to work with your cultural environment to make sure that the systems and structures and communication environment receives this information and then diffuses out to the rest of your country. So we know only a few people will be involved in the left circle and then in the right circle as well, but we need to diffuse that. So that's all I'm going to talk about for that particular diagram. Now, one of the groups, which is leading this webinar, and I've been working with, it's called Energy Evaluation Asia Pacific. It was a nonprofit established in 2018, and it's taking a leadership role in expanding the practice of and capacity for objective evaluation in the energy efficiency and renewable energy program and policy arena. And we're doing this through workshops, conferences, webinars like this, our website, and other web-based tools to foster the development of self-sustaining evaluation communities. We have a large planning committee, and we have 35 now evaluation ambassadors from 22 countries. And you can learn more about them and the organization at the website below. And in fact, Later today, you'll hear from many of the ambassadors in the presentations that we have. Here are some of the past and current funders and sponsors of our activities, and we really appreciate the help that we have received, and we hope to get more support and so we can do more things. As you can imagine, it's a nonprofit. We work on a limited basis, so the more resources we get, the more we can do. So here's my contact information if you're interested in more about what I said today. And I think since we have a lot of speakers, what I plan to do is segue into the next part of our webinar. And what you'll hear, I've asked speakers, ideally, to talk about their current government's viewpoints on the role of energy and sustainable development and in meeting their climate change mitigation. I've asked them to talk about the importance of properly and transparently evaluating the government energy policy and development programs for public accountability. Third is, how does the proper evaluation procedures are to be conducted by independent parties in their country. And then, as you can imagine, how the outcome of the evaluation is communicated to the stakeholders. Because again, I think you've heard me twice or three times, the stakeholders need to value evaluation. So that communication is very important. So what we have, and hopefully you can see this list, and I think it's 16 countries. And what we did is try to organize by region. Now, you may not like the way I did this, and you may want a country in a different part of the region, and you're probably correct. So I have a US, North America viewpoint here. But this is the order that we're going to be hearing from people. They will have 5 minutes. We've tried to tell them 5 minutes max, and Hebe will help in making sure nobody really goes too far beyond that limit. Not everyone will have slides. There are a few, I know at least one will not have slides, and there may be others. And one, depending on his availability, we may use a recording, and Hebe has that as well. So I think we'll begin now, give a few extra minutes. So I'm going to stop sharing, and we'll have Nina Campbell. So the other thing is, I'm not, because of the time limit, I'm not going to introduce anybody. I've asked each speaker to introduce themselves very briefly and then focus on the content. And if you have questions about the speakers, you can see most of them, not all, but most on our website. And if you have questions about others, you can contact me and I'll try to provide more information. So without further ado, I will stop sharing, and I will hope that Nina will start sharing her slides.
Sure, thank you, Ed. I will just make sure I can get my slides up before I do anything else. Is that coming through?
Yes.
Yeah. Hopefully that will have a full screen view. There we are. Okay, yeah, so thank you, Ed, for that really interesting talk, and it's a real honour to be part of this really brilliant lineup, and I'm really looking forward to hearing everyone else's talk. But I'll get underway quickly with mine. So I am from New Zealand, as you can see there, and my name's Nina Campbell. I work for the N5 focus areas, which will be relatively familiar to everybody, although government leadership and the role of engaging hearts and minds sometimes a little bit unusual, but something we're quite proud of. So just give you guys a bit of a refresher on where we are here in New Zealand, right at the bottom of Asia Pacific. We're a country of 4.7 million people approximately, and as you can see here, although agriculture actually represents slightly the majority of our emissions at 47.8%. Energy is represented by the pink bar there on the right hand side, 40.5% of our emissions. So it's really a critical piece of the challenge of decarbonising our economy here. And you can see that 40.5% is broken down further there. Light vehicles, passenger vehicles is the largest single contributor to our energy emissions, followed by manufacturing industries and some other segments of transport as well. So those, of course, for obvious reasons, are key areas for our work as well. So just some key information, I guess, about what we're doing down here and what the targets are for evaluation for us. Our headline targets for decarbonisation, what we're all working towards is net zero by 2050. That was target set in 2019 by the current government, and we also have the very ambitious 100% renewable electricity goal. Although looks very ambitious, it's slightly less than it might seem because we are already at around 80% with a high penetration of hydro electricity, but that last 5% is going to be a real challenge. So in terms of policies, we've got all sorts going on, but these are some of the headline activities, and EECA has a role in delivering all of these, or really is the lead in delivering all of these. So in transport, we have a sort of a fee-based system coming online which incentivises the purchase of low emissions vehicles, EVs, hybrids, and efficient combustion engines. In industry, government has put $80 million on the line to co-invest in essentially switching process heat away from coal and other fossil fuels and into electricity and biomass. In the residential space, we're delivering Warmer Kiwi Homes, which is a low-income targeted energy efficiency retrofit program, which essentially funds insulation and heating. And government leadership is a key area which is sort of doesn't make a large contribution to emissions, but we think is really important for leading the market and supporting the market for low carbon technology. So we have large investment there, and in Hearts and Minds we are working hard on behaviour change to inspire New Zealanders to make small changes in their own lives. That is a much harder set of outcomes to evaluate and track, but we are doing our best to do that. So just something about the sort of the context that we're working with in New Zealand for evaluation. The game has really changed, and the appetite for evaluation has increased in the last few years since we received the New Zealand Living Standards Framework, which is the government framework for assessment by an interest in well-being from the current government, and certainly that's what it's all about at the end of the day. So that has helped us to focus, certainly at EECA, focus management and sort of resource prioritisation more towards evaluation. It's always been a bit of a challenge to redirect funding and attention from core business delivery to this really critical aspect of checking whether that core business is actually delivering what it's expected and intended to deliver. So this has been really helpful. And at EECA, the way that we've put this into action is to develop our own evaluation strategy. And the driver for getting this moving is really about selling that message that evaluation enables us to maximise our impact. If we understand what impact we're having, we can leverage that and build on successes. So our strategy is a really critical piece, which is that it requires a monitoring and evaluation plan to be developed for every program, and that's ideally at the design stage, although we've got a lot of backfill work to do on programs that have been long-standing and didn't necessarily have that planning in place. But that is setting us up for a future of good evaluation and is enabling us to get that work done now. It also provides a process to prioritise which evaluations to do first and which to invest more time and money into. And I've just included a little example of how that looks here, where we essentially do an assessment of the visibility of a program against the financial investment that it represents. And you can see there that that gives us a grading of where to focus, and that red corner at the top there are some of our bigger, more politically important programs, and so naturally are the first targets for evaluation. Our ideal would be to work through all of these